Welcome to the Community Talk, where we connect, share stories, and dive into the latest freelancing buzz together. Welcome everyone to our first ever Freelancer Forum Community Chat. I'm really happy to have you all on the call. I would like to ask everyone to just, even though the call is being recorded, to relax, to be open, especially from the audience members, to post questions in chat so we can have an open and transparent conversation and a fun conversation like we usually do. Today there are two guests. The mystery guests and drum roll are Jennifer and Petra. I figured to start off the new AMA season with the two very influential freelancers, influential community members ever since Elance and Odesk days. So I'll just open with the conversation about my own experience. Feel free to ask questions, feel free to critique, feel free to make fun of me. That's totally fine. Anything that kind of sparks a productive or a fun conversation. So as you all know, my name is Vladimir. I have been part of the Upwork team ever since Elance days. So for the last 10 years, I think it will be 10 years in January. If I'm not mistaken, I have been freelancing for 12 years. I have learned a lot being part of the community team on Upwork. And one of the reasons why I agreed to support and lead the Freelancer Forum is so we can give a home to all the wonderful people that posted in the community and preserve the dynamics and all the advice and information that was shared in the community that unfortunately will no longer be available to all freelancers that are on Upwork, but freelancers in general and especially prospective freelancers, those who are interested in Upwork. We will continue building the forum, but the heart and soul of the forum are members like Jennifer and Petra. So our role from the people from the shadows supporting the forum is just to make sure everything's working. And my personal goal is to give the forum more audible and visual identity and use it to promote all the wonderful conversations that we're already having in the forum. Today's event is more about, again, connecting with each other, but also talking about the trending topics in the community. And of course, asking Jennifer and Petra to share their freelancing stories and freelancing experiences because those experiences and stories are really relevant. So yes, let's start by passing the mic over to Jennifer and Petra. And to avoid having a structured and formatted conversation, I'm open to bringing up any questions that come up in chat. Do post your questions there or suggestions. Petra, would you like to open today's conversation by sharing your freelancing story, because I feel it's really captivating and we have shared it before, but I'd like to start on the new forum by hearing your story.
Okay, thank you, Vladimir. My freelancing story probably started when I was a teenager. I used to always buy things, sell things, run around and find little jobs. And then after I moved to England originally, I entered normal corporate life. After a few years, I went back to Germany and became self-employed again, brokering high-priced sports horses to the USA. And then I moved to Scotland in 2010 and did a normal job again, employed. In Scotland, it's very cold and very wet, and the winters are very dark, and my job wasn't very busy, so I had lots of spare time. And I had written a book, and my royalties were being paid through Payoneer. And on the Payoneer website, I saw a little banner that said Our Partners, and there was something called Odesk. And I was bored and I clicked on it. And it was this site where you could, do little jobs and get a bit of pocket money. Or so I thought. So I thought, oh, great, I've translated before professionally. So, why not try and see if I can get the odd little translation job. So did a few of those. And it really took off. And before long, I was making a fairly significant side income, as I saw it at the time, by doing translations. I then went on holiday to Italy. And when I came back to Scotland, I decided that there had to be a way how I could live in Italy. didn't speak any Italian. I didn't know anybody, but I wanted to go and live in Italy because it's nice. So I ramped up my freelancing until I had enough money to basically live on for a few months. I sold everything I owned. I packed everything that was left, including a dog and a cat, into an old Jaguar. And I drove all the way from the very far north of Scotland to the south of Italy and started living here. At that point, I needed to make a full-time income. And there were quite a few moments when I thought, maybe this wasn't such a smart idea, because whilst I had enough money to actually get from the north of Scotland to the south of Italy, I couldn't have gone back. So if freelancing hadn't worked out, I would have been stuck in a country I don't speak the language of, with no income and basically up the creek without a paddle. But luckily, it kept taking off, and here we are, some 12 or so, and I can't actually imagine living any other way. I'll be moving back to Germany early next year, but again, it wouldn't be possible if I had to have a 9 to 5 job. Yeah, because you can't just go and pick up a job like that. I also don't think I would fit into an office environment anymore. After you've been your own boss for this long, it becomes very, very difficult to have a boss and have someone tell you what to do and when to do it and how to do it and all that. So no, I think I carry on freelancing as long as I possibly can. And that's my journey, basically.
Thank you for sharing your story, Petra. Do you have any idea of how many people you've helped over the years in the upper community forum and outside, and how many lives and personal career choices you've influenced, directly or indirectly?
I know directly I've brought a number of people, like a very close friend of mine who lives in France, but her and I grew up together in Germany, and she was in a really, really bad situation in her place of work in France. And I said, why don't you try freelancing? And she's actually a qualified translator. She went to university and she's got a degree in translation. And I said, why don't you try it? And she tried it, and I helped her set up her. She came to visit me here in Italy, and I helped her set up her profile. And 6 months later, she told her boss where to stick his job and left and started freelancing full time. Yes, and another friend of I've actually directly brought a lot of people to freelancing. I might not do it anymore now because it has become more difficult, but especially in translation. But over the years, I've said to a lot of people, why don't you try it? Not all succeeded. It's not for everybody, but I know a few have. I have no idea how many people listen to me in the community. Occasionally someone says, oh, I've been reading your posts and you've helped me, but I don't know.
Yeah, Petra, but you're like the top Kudo member of the former upper community. So there are a lot of people who acknowledged.
Yeah, I post more than others, so it was a bit of a numbers game. Doesn't mean that everything I said made any sense. It didn't.
I don't think you had the highest number of posts in the community, in the upper community, but I think you I'm sure you were the top Kudo member, and
Oh, I was, yeah.
when it comes to solutions as well. But keep in mind that not everybody kudos. And when it comes to like the back-end statistics, one of the biggest impacts that we were aware as a team and structured our communication in that regard is knowing that there are a lot of so-called lurkers in the community, users and community members who never post, never kudo, never take any of those types of actions, but they actually read. They actually read and come to the community, use their search option, search engine to find information, Upwork-related information, either about the platform itself or when they have like an account issue or a potential contract conflict or need advice. So I can tell you that your and other community members' posts have been viewed way more, can be, quantified by just looking at the number of kudos and number of posts and similar.
That's interesting to know. It's quite funny because a little while ago someone posted something on Reddit which sounded like advice. It was the answer to a question. And I read it and I thought, that sounds vaguely but distinctly familiar. And I went back and did something else, and I went back to read it again, and I thought, I don't understand why this is resonating. So I Googled it, and lo and behold, it was one of my forum posts. So someone had gone
That's
and
funny.
Googled my forum post, or Googled the answer to a question, found my forum post, copied it, and pasted it in Reddit, pretending to have written it.
To Mark's question, I don't have the exact percentage and I no longer have a way to check, but it definitely supersedes the number of members that actually posted or engaged in the community. So yeah, especially since all the forum posts were indexed in Google, so even non-Upwork members were able to see them.
You know what's really irritating at the moment? People Google answers about Upwork, and the whole first page of the Google results are community posts. And when they click on it, they get a four error. That is really
They
irritating.
they should be redirected to the help page,
No,
if I'm
doesn't
not
happen,
mistaken.
or
Sorry.
wasn't happening yesterday when I noticed it.
Okay, okay. I think the redirect is in place, but it's possible that it's been affected by something. Okay, so thank you, Petra. Jennifer, I'd like to give the mic to Jennifer, and I would like to ask Jennifer to share her freelancing story because I have a great question for her. So
Oh
Jennifer,
boy. Mine, I say this every single time. Mine's not as interesting as Petra's. Hers is so much more exciting. Mine was, I hated office life. I hated working for corporate. I was a software developer, and quite frankly, like software development was like wild, wild west in the beginning, and then it became like super corporate and structured, and I just didn't like it anymore. So I just kind of searched for how to make money online. How do you, like, I don't know, I was looking for anything, and I just kind of fell into writing. I found writing as an option. This was 2008. I would not suggest this anymore because it's a lot harder, AI, all that kind of fun stuff. But I found Elance, and I signed up to Elance. I didn't do well. I went back to corporate again. I did not like it. I knew, I was like, this is the wrong direction. And just one day, there were layoffs. The last job I had, there were layoffs. And I was a contractor. They let me write out my contract. And so while I was writing out my contract, I started to try to build up on Elance. And I just kind of, when my contract was up, I had a little money in my savings account. And I just tried really, really hard at Elance. And I wasn't actually doing that well. I was losing money and I was going broke, and then Upwork came around and we were forced to move over to Upwork, and I was really worried that it was going to be terrible. But Upwork, just that first, I'll never forget, December 2015, I made my first 5-figure month on Upwork, and like 3 months prior to that, I was going broke. My account was in the red. I was not going to make it. So after that, I just kind of kept grinding on Upwork, and it's probably been the best thing that has ever happened to me. So I was really, truly miserable in a corporate environment. Not as exciting as Petra's, but I will say, to follow up to your question on Petra, does she know how many people she helped? I went to the forum after Elance, and Petra was there, and she is the reason, well, I don't want to give her 100%. She's partially the reason why I know how to work Upwork as well as I do because of her posts. So she's definitely helped me, so.
okay. Well, shout out to Petra again.
Yeah, shout out to Petra.
That is so good to
Okay.
hear.
Jennifer, you have an interesting story, despite what you think of it yourself. But I think the way to position Jennifer for anybody who's on the call who's not familiar with Jennifer and her posts in the community or on Reddit or here for that fact, or all the activities we had as part of the community panel, I would like to ask you, Jennifer, to share your bad feedback story.
Oh, my bad feedback story. The
Yes,
dispute story.
because I feel like in so many ways that's going to paint the best picture of you as an expert, and also how even with that obstacle freelancers still can succeed.
Okay, yeah, I think probably it is a good story because I know a lot of people are all concerned about their JSS. Now, I will say JSS was not around when I went into that dispute. It was like Elance had a point system where you would like you had points, like you were number 10 or number 9, something like that. It was a little different on Elance. But I had a client where I didn't look into his history enough, and I took on, and this was back when I wasn't making money too, so I was a little more desperate. If it happened today, it's one of those things where I wish I knew yesterday what I know today. Looking back, there were some red flags, but I was too new and I didn't notice them. And he first accused me of plagiarism, but realized he had made a mistake, and everything just went to hell. And he just said, "I want my money back. This is terrible. I don't want to pay you." And I said, "Well, no, I did what you wanted me to do." And he opened a dispute, and he made the really huge mistake of, at the time, Elance offered mediation. You didn't have to go to mediation, and this was like 9 years ago, so I'm trying to remember everything. They offered to resolve it through their own mediation, and I said yes. He said no. So we were forced to go into arbitration, and it was very stressful because I needed the money, and I didn't think his argument was very good, but he lied. So I was very frustrated, and I would spend like an hour trying to, when you go into arbitration, it's kind of like online court. You have like your opening statements and your closing statements, and I spent so much time arguing to get this $800, and he got caught lying, and immediately the arbiter said, "Well, you're lying to me. I just read this. You lose." So he loses. Back then, you got feedback after the dispute was over, which of course you're always going to get bad feedback. And he left me 1 star, really long paragraph that said I was terrible, I was unprofessional, I was all of these things. And it had to have affected me, right? I'd be stupid to think it like didn't affect me at all. But in my head, my idea was like, well, what am I going to do? I could just like not go to Elance anymore and be broke and go back to corporate, or I could just kind of work through it. So I just kept bidding as if it wasn't even there. Nobody ever asked me about it. So like, I'm sure people saw it and didn't hire me because of it. But as soon as it hit the second page of Elance, it just didn't, or the second page of my feedback, it just didn't bother me. It didn't like seem to affect me anymore, and I did fine. But yeah. And it hasn't been my only 1 star. I've gotten some rants after that, but I don't think if you have a bunch of good feedback and you have like this one that just went bad, you're going to have a bad contract. It's going to happen. You do enough contracts, you're going to have a bad contract, and you just kind of have to work through it. Just pretend like it's not even there. That's my advice. Pretend like it's not even there. And that's what helped me anyway. So that's my bad feedback. I survived even though I wasn't making any money. So, and I was desperate and I really needed that money. $800, and I really needed it. But that's my story.
Okay, thank you, Jennifer. Just for full closure, I do miss the option to unmute or ask to unmute some of the audience members. But yeah, as you can see, we are at the initial stages of our great endeavor of making the Freelancer Forum the best freelancing community out there. So yeah, we're getting there.
Do you care if we pass the link around, like on Reddit or anything?
For the Freelancer Forum?
Yeah, for your forum. You don't care?
I'm going to be strict and I say for our forum.
For our...
Yeah, definitely. Like, because, yeah, that's a conversation again that we should be having, but everybody's welcome. Everybody's welcome to the Freelancer Forum. So, yeah.
I think something Jennifer said, and something I always think is amazing advice Jennifer gives, and she gives it very, very often. When people complain about their job success score, she often says, "I don't even know what mine is at the moment. Don't look at it." Yeah, behave as if you're the most incredible 100%er, and people will perceive you as such. And you've been saying that for years, and it's something that's always stuck with me when I was worried about an outcome maybe not going well. I always did what would Jennifer say, and I thought, well, I'm just not going to do that.
I mean, what are you supposed to do? I've always said, and I say this to people in private too, like, there are certain people like yourself, myself, your friend in France, that like we have to make it, right? It's either we make money or we're not going to be able to pay our bills. So what
Yeah.
can you do if you've already gotten bad feedback? You just got to keep going. That's just do it.
No, definitely, definitely. That's a topic in itself that I would really love, and I do plan to address in future community conversations like this one. Since I feel a lot of freelancers, a lot of businessmen are making roadblocks for themselves out of certain stereotypes and out of certain fears based on just an impression, especially when checking some of the content posted online. Job Success Core, aka JSS, is one of those. So
And
definitely.
I don't think you don't have to have 100%. Like 100% is great, and I sit there with 100% right now, but most of the work I've done, I didn't have 100%. I've seen this really terrible advice where people talk about why would somebody hire somebody at 95 if they can hire somebody at 100%? And I'm like, no two people are equal, first of all, and that's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard.
Mind
Clients don't even really
boggling.
know what yeah, they don't go like I'm sure like 90% and above is good, but like they don't know the difference. They just know you have all this feedback, you've done all these things, you have you've made this much money on the platform. That is important. Things like that, but clients aren't going to say, well, this person has 100, so I'm going to hire them. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, no, but I understand at the same time that if a freelancer is providing like a flawless experience and meeting all the milestones, communicating properly, I can see how they might get ticked off by
Oh, of
getting
course.
less than perfect
Of
feedback. But
course.
yeah,
Of course, like sure, like it's upsetting when somebody doesn't like your stuff or somebody thinks you didn't communicate even though you like I don't think like even like you have a meeting with them every week or whatever. Like sure, but they're people. That's the thing. It's people.
yes.
And there are people in this world who don't believe in giving 100% just because everybody can improve. It's the most ridiculous thing I've ever run into, and it was very corporate, but so like they're just people, and just blow it off, keep going. Don't even look at it.
Yeah, 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 I totally agree. One of the things that, for example, for me personally was really important and influential when it comes to Petra's post is the confidence boost I've gotten since I've moved over to Upwork after the merger. Even though we had our differences with Petra, let's kind of frame it like that because I know, and Jennifer, you know that we had a different guidelines in the Ellen's water cooler,
Mm-hmm.
and moving over to Upwork and trying to build a community out of the two different platforms and out of the two different sets of freelancers who kind of felt that since we did move technically over to the Odesk platform from Elens, that might be their forum, and this is just they are being invaded, but it worked out great. Like as I said, getting
To be fair, the E-Lancers had a really bad attitude towards Odesk.
Yeah.
I don't.
yeah.
There was like a war. There was like this war. Like Odesk was a crappy platform, but Elance was so much better. I don't know. I didn't agree, but
The arrogance of the Elance crowd at the beginning, it was staggering. And,
it
you
was.
couldn't just turn around and say, why do you keep putting this platform that has just been driven into the ground and was hemorrhaging money and had failed, but it's the best thing that ever happened in the history of universe. I couldn't quite understand it. It was hilarious.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, there were some, I mean, elitist type of comments and views, but yeah, Elance and Odesk were definitely different types of platforms. Definitely different for in certain areas because I worked on both Elance and Odesk. I did prefer Elance for certain aspects in at least my freelancing business. But before my contract with Elance, Upwork, my biggest contract and biggest clients, long-term clients, of course, were on Odesk. So,
Same.
okay. So when it comes to confidence building, Petra's posts do exude an enormous amount of confidence. And one of the quotes from our previous conversations in one of the previous event sessions that Petra shared is that if I want something, I go for it hard, and I usually get it. Or not even I usually get it. If I want something, I go for it really hard, and my proposal reflects that. So just that idea that you're not subordinate to your client, that idea that you
No,
can select clients, you can have a voice, you
you
can
have
influence
to.
how,
You have to.
yeah.
Yeah. I maintain that the success of a freelancer's career is determined more by the people they turn down than the clients they accept. Because if you get one bad client, it can put you back so much. It takes 5 or 6 good clients to make it up again. And the knock in your confidence and the knock in your sense of self-worth is even greater. So you need to select your clients carefully. You need to remember that you are a business. You're not an employee. What Jennifer calls the wagey mindset. Yeah, that needs to be left at the door when you check into being a freelancer. You can't think like an employee. You can't behave like an employee. You have to behave like you are your client's business partner. You're not their employee, you're not their underling, you're not their little slave, you're not their plaything. You are a business partner. And once you get that idea through your head, that's when people start treating you like that. As long as you behave like you are subservient, people will treat you that way. Yeah, it's human nature. That's what people do.
Yeah, to add to that, if I can, I also think like I see a lot of people complaining about what clients are offering. Clients are paying $5, clients are only paying $50. It doesn't matter. You have to like quote your rate. Yes, you're going to lose some clients. Yes, not everybody's going to go for your rate, but it's like I tell people, nobody's offering me the amount of money that I pull on Upwork. Nobody's saying, "Here, have this." I have to say, "This is my rate," and they'll say, well, this is our budget. And I'm like, all right, dude, you got to come up on your budget then. And, they might disappear. They might come back. They might say, okay, fine. Like, whatever happens, happens. But you can't just sit around saying these budgets on the clients are paying me this amount. They're not paying a livable wage. Like, okay, that doesn't matter. Bid your rate. That's it.
This is a question for both of you, actually. Where does that confidence come from? Petra, feel free to follow up first.
I'm not sure where mother was like that. She still is. But I think it's success breeds success, and I'm ambitious. I was ambitious in sport, and the more you win, the more confident you get. And to me, it's freelancing is a sport to a degree. Winning contracts is like winning in sport, winning a competition. And I've come to the point where I've won a contract. And I'll sit there and talk to my friend in Germany, also freelance. It's like I've just won this huge contract. Hooray! Now I have to do the work. And I don't really want to. Sometimes you get so caught up with the winning of it. No, I think I just like winning. And if you do well often enough, you become confident. And I don't do things unless I can do them well. That's what screwed me up at school, because I was really, really superbly good in some subjects, and I was only like reasonably okay in others. And the ones I wasn't great at, I refused to even try, because if I couldn't win, I didn't want to play. Yeah, and it was really difficult. My mother had to answer many awkward questions why, I could be so good at the things I wanted to do and so absolutely hopeless at the ones I didn't. And, it's been like that all my life. I can't be bothered with things I don't want to do, but the things I do want to do, I need to be best at, or at least very, very good. Otherwise, I can't be bothered.
Yeah, that's a great point, and that's something which is hard to kind of share with freelancers who are just starting out and who are inevitably scared because, like, especially for freelancers who are non-English, don't have English as a native language, and they are new to all the like the freelancing game, even though they might be like translators or developers or similar. Like they are new to Upwork or to any of the other freelancing platforms, and the mentality usually that I see in my conversations is okay. Let's start low. Let's start low, let's lower our rates, let's get a bigger number of contracts. So in terms of Upwork, we can get a higher JSS, we can have more, get more feedback, and that rationale is valid to a point. But yeah, I would like to ask what you think about and what your advice would be on this topic. But first, I want to give an opportunity for Jennifer to share where Jennifer gets her confidence from.
um, I will say that once you have enough money in the bank and you are making enough money and you have long-term clients, it does help a lot. So I mean, I've been broke on Elance before, so I get why you want to just take whatever you can. But, and I don't always listen to some of the old school way of thinking on Elance where, you know, I don't always follow all of their rules. So I understand taking whatever you can get, but one of the things they were absolutely correct about is like the lower you go and the cheaper the client, the worse the client. That's very true. I don't know where I get the confidence. I just like I don't see the internet as real. The internet's just not real. Like what is somebody gonna say to you? Like they can curse me out. It's just words on the screen. I can like turn off the computer and go outside and enjoy my life. So who cares what they have to say to me? I don't know. My dad was a small business owner, so he was super confident and he sold contracts. And I remember walking into his office one day. He was playing Age of Empires. This was a long time ago. He was playing Age of Empires like 2 o'clock in the afternoon in his office. And I just remember saying, Dad, you're playing Age of Empires. He's like, yeah, when you own a company, you can do whatever you want too. And I just remember saying, that's cool. I want to play Age of Empires in the middle of the day. So, like, that was my dad. Like, he didn't care what anybody thought. He did his thing. So, it's probably from my dad, I guess. But I just, you can't, like, there's a point you have to care. If a client is giving you money and you did something wrong, this is where I draw the line. If I do something wrong, actual wrong, like I write something that's wrong, I feel bad, I try to make up for it, I apologize, I'm not going to give them their money back, but I'll fix it. Like if they just say I don't like something, like what am I supposed to do? They don't like something. Well, you know, like how do I guarantee somebody's going to like writing? This is where I think kind of software development is a little easier, and I hopefully I don't piss off the software developers, but like with software development, you can, you know, somebody says put this on the screen, you put that on the screen and it works and you're good. Like with writing, it's kind of like you can have people just say I don't like your writing and there's nothing you can do about it. And I feel like what am I going to do? So just I'm sorry. Still get paid. Sorry, I still get my money. Bye. That's just it. That's it.
Okay, thanks, Jennifer. Petra?
I think it's also a cultural element to that. I think in some cultures, the relationship between an employer and an employee and the relationship between a client and a freelancer is culturally and historically different. Like in many Asian countries, a boss is always someone you have to treat with reverence, whereas in the Western world, it's much more on an even keel. So I often see freelancers from Asian countries who have this desire to serve their clients and who will take an awful lot of really bad treatment from clients because they believe that is their place. Yeah, that is a natural way of being. And I've often had freelancers say that to me, but you know, in our culture, that is the way we behave, and we say sir, and we do this and we do that. And it's very difficult to train people that as a freelancer they need to accept that they are also a boss. They're the boss of their own business. And the client is the boss of their own business. And it's like, two bosses doing business with each other's business, if that makes sense.
Yeah, thanks for sharing your perspective. We'll definitely be discussing freelancing and platform related topics moving forward in the conversation like this and in the forums themselves. But I just wanted to shed light on one of the threads on one of the posts that was posted in our forums, and I'm just sharing the link in chat because I feel posts like these do kind of, and posts like this should receive a lot of attention in the forums because that's one of the main focuses of the freelancer forum is helping prospecting or existing freelancers. So yeah, just sharing the link in case anyone would like to follow up and just share any advice they see fit in regards to all the details and questions that the user posted asking our forum and our community for help.
One thing about I think should be noted when you search out, I think people should do their own research, but be careful with these people, with these YouTube videos. Like if you listen to some of them, I don't think I've ever listened to one where they're not giving really bad advice that can get you banned on Upwork. So be careful whose advice you listen to.
I think Vipa, one of the expert freelancers that we had part of the panel and part of the groups program, said it very well that when he was starting around like, I don't know, less than 10 years ago, let's say 7, 8 years ago, the freelancing scene was very different. There
Yes.
was a lot less information, a lot
Yes.
less resources, but there were more opportunities,
Yeah.
job opportunities. Now there's like a wave and flood of content, but job opportunities have decreased a bit, but also there were certain processes put in place that prevent new freelancers from getting that first initial job with the same ease that they were able to not even 7 8 years ago, even like 4 years ago. Like the when we talk about if we talk about Upwork is one of the platform that kind of changed its identity and changed a lot and also keeps changing on more rapidly as we progress. So yeah, I definitely agree with that. Since we are at time, I would like to ask both of you to share where do you see the freelancing forum in like a month's time?
Month? Oh,
Yes.
wow. A month? January. See, January always is terrible for me. That I save up a ton of money in the fall and like I have to ride through January, February, and some of March. I'm in the writing section. I don't know what to think about writing anymore. I don't know if Petrus feels the same way about translation, but writing, I wouldn't suggest writing as a start anymore. I feel like there's a huge divide now where you have the people just generating AI stuff. They've cut out all of these low end writers. You have the mid tier writers who are now struggling with the low tier. And then you have like the upper end, but I know this sounds terribly pretentious, but I'd like to think I'm on the upper end. There's not as much as there used to be. So I I don't know what to think about I'm still kind of on the edge. I want to get out of writing. That's just my goal probably for 2025. I don't think it's a very good place. I think freelancing is there's a lot of people that have gotten laid off, the tech industry, for instance. So I can't imagine these people, even in the technical side of things, have it as easy as we did like 5 years ago. So I think it's viable, but it's so much harder right now. And I can write off of my long history, the money I've made on Upwork. I can kind of play into that, but I wouldn't suggest writing as a start anymore. I would suggest getting into something technical, but the trick is, at least with writing, I have the advantage of I speak English, so I can compete against somebody who maybe can't speak English so well, but like, you don't have to speak good English to be an amazing software developer or something like that. So it's much harder than it was.
Can I clarify the question? Did you say freelancing in a month or the freelancing forum?
The freelancing forum, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
whoops. I went off on a tangent. My bad. My bad. Sorry. I heard freelancing. My bad. Oh my God.
No, that's a great take as well, because
No, it
that's
was
also
really
one of
interesting.
the really trending topics. Where are we going
My
with
bad.
freelancing? At one moment, I was expecting you, Jen, to say like I would suggest people go into AI and similar, but yeah.
I think your forum is a great idea only because I think you have the advantage of people who know Upwork versus everywhere else people are just giving bad advice. I don't like half like 95% of the advice I see. So I think if you can structure it in a way that helps people understand Upwork, because now we don't have the community anymore. So who's going to tell somebody, no, 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 don't make another account. You're going to get banned. So like, and that we see that all the time on Reddit. It's like, no, 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 don't do that. I think you have a good thing. You're just going to have to foster it. And it's always hard in the beginning, right?
Yeah, yeah, I agree.
Well, I'm really hoping that the people who have found their way there will stick around and participate. And I'm also hoping that people who look for the community will find their way to us. I think it's got the potential to not replace what the community was, but to take it and go in a slightly different direction. I've already seen a lot of people that I remember from the forum very fondly, and I think it could be something really great if we can keep people's attention. And I think that AMAs like this and that kind of content could probably really help.
Okay, thank you, Petra. Well, on that note, I would like to again thank everybody thank Jennifer and Petra for agreeing to be my guests today, and also for all the great audience members that joined and just had a lot of fun in chat. A shout out for Andrea. And sorry for not calling it out earlier. I saw Jen posting about Andrea
Yeah,
in chat, so yeah.
she helped me the very last minute. She helped me. I know she doesn't have a mic, but thank you very much. That was really awesome. Unfortunately, notifications haven't worked out very well for me, but she got me what I asked, so I very much appreciate it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, again, I'm sure I mentioned this before. Andrea,
Andrea.
she's Argentinian, so sorry for all the Spanish-speaking people for mispronouncing the
Roll
name.
your R's, roll your R's. That's okay. They're
Yeah.
probably laughing at us now. The Americans don't know how to roll their R's. I hear it. Yes, yes, we know.
Andrea, for me, Andrea is like if something is reflective of our team's culture, that's Andrea. That's definitely Andrea, because Andrea was first a super user in the community, and then she was invited and joined the community team, the moderation team. So yeah, and I'm not sure how much Andrea would like me to share, and I don't want to overshare, but yeah, I would love for Andrea to just continue with this career, because I can see that she has the charisma and the touch and the conversation tone that users just like. So she's a great representative
And
of
she
like,
doesn't have to use canned responses anymore. Are we allowed to say that since your last day? Technically, you're still Upwork employee. She doesn't have to use canned responses. She can tell us off now. Good for her.
I know she's in Argentina, she's South American, but I don't think she would ever do that. So yeah.
You don't know your spicy Latinos, Vlad. Like I know the spicy Latinos. You don't piss off the spicy Latinos. It's gonna happen.
Jen, Flo is on this call, so definitely I'm aware, and I have been part of those conversations in the Argentinian group and in those guided growth sessions, which were in Spanish. So mind you, I was part of guided growth sessions in Spanish, and
Oh wow.
I had a really fun time. I mean, yeah, just a heads up, I am planning to restart thanks to all the growth guides who are interested in continuing the great mentorship sessions, free mentorship sessions that we had. But the reason for restarting the flows one for like the Argentina and Latin America group is just so I can look and not look, listen to that conversation.
I need to do that too to practice. Do you speak Spanish?
Not really.
Not really. Yeah, I should probably listen. I'm to a point where I need to get better and listen, but yeah.
I can
Anyway, sorry.
understand
Off
it
track.
now.
I can count. Sorry, Petra?
I can understand it now. It was really, really weird after living in Italy for years. I accidentally ended up with something in Spanish on the TV. And I was watching it, and it took me about 5 minutes to realize that I actually understood what they're talking about because the Spanish and Italian is fairly similar.
Yeah, similar. Yeah.
It's similar enough so you can actually follow along with the conversation as long as people don't have a strong accent and don't speak too fast or too furiously. But that was really fun. It was really funny. It was one of those what the hell moments when you realize you're understanding something you don't think you could understand. I'm pretty bilingual, so I have moments where I'm not aware of which language I'm actually listening to because I watch TV in German, English, and Italian. And sometimes I don't, I'm not consciously aware what language it is.
Yeah, I'm fan of languages. That's also one of the conversations and possibly groups we can have. But I hope I don't really cause any pain to freelancers from like Scandinavian countries, especially from Sweden. I studied Sweden for a short while, and I found that it was really natural to me because I had a good understanding of English and a fairly good understanding at that time of German, and I found it like the Swedish language was really, really, really similar to both of those, and it was like connecting the
Really?
dots more. Sorry?
Really?
Interesting.
I,
Yes,
I
yes.
don't I don't understand a word of Swedish, and I'm German.
That's the way it's spoken because it's spoken differently. But if you look at the words, how they're written,
Yeah,
you would recognize a lot of words.
yeah, that's true.
Okay, so yeah, I would like to definitely we're going to I feel have a 2 hour session next Wednesday or any other day. On that note, a reminder for everyone who is part of this call and also who might be watching the recording afterwards, please do go to that announcement thread for this session, Community Talk number 1, and just share the day and the range, the time frame range that would work for you for future sessions. We already got a lot of great feedback, but I would like to kind of jointly decide on one or a couple of time frames that might be working best for most of the users, so everybody can just join the conversation and not just have like the 2, 3, or 5 of us talking here. So yeah. On that note, I would like to thank everybody for participating in this call and looking forward to seeing you all in the next week's call.
Very cool. Thank you. Thank you for the invite. I appreciate it.